Speaking of corporations stepping on the humans, ACX voice replicas. So a lot of Amazon news today. So we've talked about the 11 Labs has a voice replica feature that very famously Melania Trump used. So if you get Melania Trump's audiobook, you'll hear a voice replica of Melania Trump reading her book rather than her herself because she's not super comfortable with English. Well, ACX has now rolled out that same feature. Jonathan?
So they have expanded their voice replica beta to international markets for newly published titles. Narrators who create AI replicas of their own voices can now distribute those audiobooks across all eligible Audible marketplaces. They select distribution once during setup. They get access to a greater listener base in places like the UK. They unlock enhanced royalties, and they get local promotional tools like UK-specific promo codes for the UK market. It simplifies production, emphasizes quality control through narrator oversight on edits for pacing and pronunciation. This is a build on July's launch. It invited select U.S. narrators to submit free voice samples for AI replication. Authors could then audition these replicas that were created for their projects and skip traditional readings, which tends to expedite the whole process and reduces a lot of the cost at the cost of quality.
So an AI narrated audiobook is the mass market paperback equivalent in the audiobook world, going back to what we were talking about earlier.
Right.
And it's better than nothing. A lot of you have no audiobooks at all. I found that this is particularly true with female authors. So audiobooks are far more popular with men than with women, or men are more likely to read audiobooks than they are to read ebooks and paper books. And there's a lot of women who they just don't listen to audiobooks. They've never listened to an audiobook. And it's very easy to just write that off and be like, oh, nobody listens to audiobooks. No, for some books, they sell more copies for audio than they do in paper or ebook. In fact, Matt Dinneman, who we were just talking about earlier, who has very much writing for men, there's a lot of women who read his books too, but because he has a good audiobook experience and because he's hitting the nail on the head in terms of his writing, he has a ton of audiobook sales. And so the same is true for everybody. This is a revenue source, and not having an audiobook really makes the book look like it's AI slop, because that's the sort of extra effort that the AI slop authors aren't willing to put in. I will say though, an AI read book that helps a little. It's better than having nothing, but having a human narrator is the kind of gold badge. I've never seen an AI slop novel with a human audiobook narrator.
There was actually a big argument a while back on X where it was authors narrating their book versus having a professional do it. And there was this big indie author who was on the side of professional studios doing it. He's like, you should absolutely spend $20,000 to make sure it be the best it can absolutely be. And I'm on the other side. I think the author can tell the story the best. The author just needs to get over his or herself when it comes to confidence in relating the book. Now, I did several interviews with women on why don't you listen to audiobooks? And they said they don't want to have the way they experience the book dictated to them. So there's too many constraints on the way the book is enjoyed, like the way words are expressed by the way the narrator chooses to give the words. Men tend to listen more for information, so they want the story points, right? What happened in the story? That's what I want to know. And women were more about, they want to be immersed and experience the story, which is why they prefer to read it for themselves. And so it's it was a fun series of interviews to do. And I'm like, okay, why is this like this? Why aren't ladies listening to audiobooks? And it appears to be that that's the reason why.
This book, Raising a Modern Day Knight, that my book club is doing, because it's from the 90s, doesn't have an audiobook edition. And I have been slammed. I've been so busy. The Roast Engine, which is the name we're going to go with, which is an AI or a Patron Toolbox tool that will leave negative reviews on your book that are like painfully close to problems that you actually have with your book.
Yes.
I don't know why people want this, but you're going to be able to get a preview of what the 1-star and 2-star reviews are with this tool. I have the tool working, but I just did not have the time to actually put it on the website so you can all use it, hopefully very soon. That's how busy I've been. I've just been wall-to-wall busy, but I'm really wanting to keep up with this book about raising young men or boys to become men. and there's no audiobook version. And so I found a secret workaround to turn any ebook into an audiobook. And that is you enable the screen reader on through the accessibility features on your iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
And then you pull up the Kindle book and you press play and you just suffer through the world's worst AI reader. So for those of you who are like, I don't want an AI reader for my book, I'll tell you, there's already an AI reader for your book, and it's the awful on-demand iPhone one. Whatever you get, any of these ACX voice clones or 11 Labs voice clones, they're all going to be better than what I had to suffer through for 3 chapters of Raising a Modern Day Knight. But as a man, I just wanted the info.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Yep.
and I wanted the info while I was working out. So I'm in the gym working out, listening to this bot stumble through these human narrated or human written sentences and really trying its best. It was also a female narrator for a book written by a man about manhood,
Yes.
which was created a little bit of cognitive
and this
dissonance.
there's not just going to be a cognitive dissonance when you have a machine reading what a human's written. I had a British narrator read my American fantasy, and there was like a little lift. You could detect a little bit of separation from the way that I structure my sentences, because I'm an American and I structure sentences a certain way and the British don't. And so that was something I learned when I was going through audiobook production process my first time. So it's going to happen with AI a lot, as well as it's trying to figure out what you're saying. I did the reading for Semper Die myself. And I had a couple technical issues with getting the sound to sound consistent. But as far as the reading goes, everyone seems to have really enjoyed the reading, because I know what Marines shout like. Just the way you say the word Marine is different.
I will say I listened to Jonathan's entire Marines vs. Zombies audiobook, which is called Semper Die, read by Jonathan, and it was great. And I thought, you did a good performance when they're angry and shouting. You really lean into it, which is key. But you also, when somebody's on the radio, you put a radio sound effect. Very subtle. You didn't put a lot of audio engineering, but just that one little bit really added a lot of verisimilitude to the audiobook that I thought was really good. And by the way, me pointing out that men are more likely to read audiobooks than they are ebook and paper doesn't mean that women don't also listen to audiobooks.
Oh, correct. Yeah. No,
we're talking about the bell curve being slightly shifted over one way or the other.
It's not like women never should and shouldn't and whatever.
But there are some women, and right. I know some that have never listened to a single minute of an audiobook and have no intention to ever do that. And there's some men that are like that too. But remember, there's a bell curve, and there's either side of the bell curve. So I'm on one far extreme where I only listen to audiobooks. And if your book doesn't exist on audiobook, I will not read it unless I'm so into the book I'm willing to do some sort of duct tape and baling wire, get Siri to read me the book, and I have to click play every time there's a new page, and it's a terrible experience.
Yeah. I have 5 daughters and my wife, and they all listen to audiobooks. They have them on throughout the day. The kids are going through the Bunnicula series right now.
Okay, we have a comment in the chat, and I want to address this. Excuse me, reading an audiobook. Yes, I said reading, and I meant it. So listening to a book is the original way that books were experienced for the majority of the time we've had writing. So reading silently is actually a relatively new development in human history.
Sure.
The first time we see it recorded in the historical record is St. Augustine, actually, was in some of his writings, marveled that there was a monk he knew who was able to look upon a scroll and receive illumination in his mind. And this was just like, what? You can read quietly? So all of the books of the Bible, the Iliad, the Odyssey, all of those were effectively audiobooks. The way the book was constructed and consumed was that it was read aloud, often to a group, but even if somebody was reading it by themselves, they were reading it out loud. And you see evidence of this in the Bible in several places. In the book of James, it says, be a doer of the word, not a hearer only. In another instance, Philip is walking alongside the Ethiopian eunuch who's reading the book of Isaiah. And Philip knows what the Ethiopian eunuch is reading. Why? Because he's reading it out loud. So you are reading when you listen to an audiobook. And don't let anybody tell you that this is some like inferior way of experiencing a book. It's the primary original way that books were experienced.
If you look at...
I'm really ranting today. I don't know.
You really are. And it's fine. Um, but when you look at what child psychologists are saying, they say reading to your child, to your baby, to your toddler is the best way to stimulate the neurons in their minds to form connections. And not only that, it's an emotional experience because they're forming a bond with you. And that's them experiencing a story out loud. And you're their favorite narrator as their dad, So, you know, the people who say that audio isn't reading, I get on one hand what you're saying. A book is a different experience when you can imagine it yourself. An audiobook is a different experience because it's being delivered to you. It's produced in one form. And a movie is a different experience because it's also being delivered and produced to you, but it comes with a visual format to it. So the storytelling comes in a different format and should be treated differently. But I can enjoy the book, the movie, and the audiobook. I mean, I have several books that I enjoy listening to and reading, depending on what mood that I'm in. And I'm a rereader. I don't throw a book away. So people who say the audio isn't reading, on the one hand, I understand what you're saying, but if we're gonna get the story, I mean, that's the way storytelling was. It started as a primarily audio format, and if you're in Italy, it came with a lot of hand gestures.
I don't think one form of reading is superior to another. Some people are like, paper is the best because unless you can smell the book, it's not real reading. And
That's just your favorite, whatever. Like, it doesn't mean it's the best. It's the best for you when you're in the bathtub, with your coffee or wine or whatever it is that you're doing this with.